Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya wa sayyidil mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi al-ghurril mayamin wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi as-sami'il alim minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa ma arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin. Wa qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam: لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده.
Come on, really? Okay. Greetings also to you. Get on with it. 5 minutes intro. I prefer to be called Islamophobic from boredom.
الناس أجمعين أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am honored to be here with you today to talk about a very imminent topic, a crisis we face today globally. You may not have heard about this before, things I'm about to share with you, because we, the Muslim community in general, are by the grace of Allah very peace-loving, down-to-earth, law-abiding citizens. And if things are going fine for us, we don't really look into global issues. But as our Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that we are like a body. We are one body. If one part of the body hurts, the entire body is affected. And based upon that very principle, I would like to share a few things with you. Islamophobia. What is Islamophobia? Commonly understood, it means an irrational fear of Islam. This is how it is defined, generally speaking. But now, unfortunately, it has become normal to criticize Islam, to attack the Prophet of Islam, or to even attack his followers. And these attacks take place in a number of different forms. As I speak right now, in fact, this very morning, I read an article that in Austria, headscarves for girls have been banned.
Headscarves for girls have been banned. Oh, the tragedy. It's almost what you do to Christians in the Muslim world. Oops, what it says here? Christian persecution at near genocide levels. Like the headscarf, almost. Okay, we didn't reach these tragic levels, but it's almost. We are almost there. Let's read the article. The interim report said the main impact of genocidal acts against Christians is exodus, and that Christianity faced being wiped out from parts of the Middle East. It warned the religion is at risk of disappearing in some parts of the world, pointing to figures which claimed Christians in Palestine represent less than 1.5% of the population, while in Iraq they have fallen from 1.5 million before 2003 to less than 120,000. Evidence shows not only the geographic spread of anti-Christian persecution, but also its increasing severity. In some regions, the level and nature of persecution is arguably coming close to meeting the international definition of genocide, according to that adopted by the UN. But let's read parts of this report. Bishop of Truro, independent review for the Foreign Secretary of FCO, Support for Persecuted Christians. Interim report. What it says here? Furthermore, the evidence suggests that acts of violence and other intimidation against Christians are becoming more widespread. The reporting period revealed an increase in the severity of anti-Christian persecution in parts of the Middle East and Africa. The vast scale of the violence and its perpetrators declare intent to eradicate the Christian community. Wait, what it says here? There is widespread evidence that today Christians constitute by far the most widely persecuted religion, finding once again that Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world. The Pew Research Center concluded that in 2016, Christians were targeted in 144 countries. Hey, like Adnan Rashid is targeted in the UK. Okay. Christians are targeted in the Muslim world, but also Adnan Rashid is targeted in the UK. So it's equivalent. According to Pew Research, Christians have been harassed in more countries than any other religious group and have suffered harassment in many of the heavily Muslim countries, reporting a shocking increase of the persecution of Christians globally. Approximately 245 million Christians suffer high levels of persecution or worse, 30 million up from the previous year. The persecution of Christians is perhaps at its most violent in the regions of the birthplace of Christianity, the Middle East. As mentioned earlier, forms of persecution ranging from routine discrimination in education, employment and social life to genocidal attacks against the Christian communities had led to a significant exodus of Christians from this region. Christians face a high level of persecution by the state, by religious extremists, armed groups, and in many cases by societies and communities. That sounds like institutionalized persecution. Do you have institutionalized persecution? Adnan Rashid. Yeah. You don't have a mosque in front of every house. You only have one mosque every 2 houses. And after 20 years terrorist attacks, you have one person speaking against you. One person. So after 20 years terrorist attacks, you have one person speaking against you and you are bullying him. Yes. Bobo, the oppression, eh? And the poor guy is in jail now. Wow, the persecution you are experiencing, not genocidal magnitudes, in biblical magnitudes. It's biblical. It's almost the flood of Noah. You just have the mayor of London Muslim. In the meanwhile, let's continue the report. Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Syria and Saudi Arabia, the situation of Christians and other minorities has reached an alarming state.
I don't know if you came across this. I watch news very carefully. I read articles very carefully. And we must all do it. We live in a very important age, an age where information spreads like wildfire, thanks to social media. And if we are missing information, that we are at fault. If we don't know what's happening around the corner, then we are the ones to blame. We need to understand our situation locally as well as globally. We as Muslims cannot afford to think anything other than strategically. We have to be strategic in our living. Time is one of those things the Prophet ﷺ warned about. That if you lose time, you lose everything. It's one of the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in this article, it stated that headscarves have been banned for Muslim girls in particular. Sikhs with the turbans and the Jewish people with the skull cap are exempted. So specifically targeting the Muslim children.
Did Austria woke up one day and said, let me see, for no reason whatsoever, I want to be racist against the Muslim. But look what Adnan Rashid just said. Okay, he said he follows the news. So, in the news now in UK, we had this report I just posted with a bishop, the Persecution of Christians Review. Foreign Secretary speech following the final report. In other news, Austria banned the headscarf in the elementary schools. The land of the elves. The land of the elves banned the headscarf. And Adnan Rashid got upset, not for the first, for the second. What? Elementary schools, we should brainwash our children from 6-year-old, not after they become 13. But okay, let's deal with Islamophobia. Let's deal with your problem. What can we do? I know the Declaration of Human Rights. It's also in the article we just read. 40 million Christians, this article, you know. What it says here? Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or privately to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's Article 18 of the Declaration of Human Rights. Who opposes this article in the world? Maybe bigots like Robert Spencer, or maybe the Christians, or maybe white supremacists, racists. Let's see what it says here. Everyone has the right of freedom of thought. Conscience. And religion. The right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public to manifest his religion. In teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The Declaration of Human Rights. Who goes against human rights? I know Robert Spencer. I remember Mohammed Hijab making a lecture against human rights, saying that it's not objective. So the article of human rights that can protect you from Islamophobia, according to you, is not objectively true. It almost seems like you don't really care about Islamophobia, rather you care about protecting the Quran. That is what it seems like. But I'm sure I'm wrong. So it's obvious to everyone that is fair-minded, your struggle is not protecting Islam, it's the well-being of Muslim girls. You try to protect their identity. I will go as far as to say that you care about human rights. Okay, sometimes you do lectures against human rights, but okay, we all been there.
Communication did not work. You beat her, correct?
Talking.
That's
what I mean. To talk it out.
She
To
did not
try
obey.
and
Okay, she did not obey.
to try and talk it out and see
No problem.
what
She did
each
not-
person
What
thinks
talking?
is the
What
right
talking?
thing to do
There's no
before
talking there.
anything.
You are saying to her, do this, or if you don't agree with me, I will beat you, correct?
I'm sorry?
The man, he don't talk to the women really. He's saying to her, don't do that. He's not negotiating and approve if she
There
don't
is
agree with him.
negotiating because if he's wrong and if he says something against our religion, then who is he to say? Who is he to
Against
say
his
don't do
religion? What
this?
is against
If
his
he
religion?
told his wife, if he told his wife don't wear hijab, then he's wrong. So he's not always right. The man is not always right. He's
Can
only
she-
right if
can
he's
she beat
speaking
him?
right,
Can
if
she
he's
beat him
speaking
in
about
that case?
justice.
Okay,
But if
okay.
the woman is
Okay.
speaking about justice and
And-
refuses to do something that she thinks is wrong,
Okay,
she has
no
a
problem.
right to refuse that.
Okay.
Is this a sign of identity or psychological abuse? Okay? That is, my friend, if I put a person in a chamber and connect his brain to a machine with wires. That is Nazi kind of propaganda. It's not identity, it's psychological abuse. You added the extra baggage to a stupid fabric. You added this extra superstitious baggage. And keep in mind, people, Austria banned the scarf in the elementary schools, okay, to children from 6 to 13. And Adnan Rashid dare say that we should install this kind of psychological pressure to children from 6 to 13. And he's not ashamed to say that. Okay.
Let us say,
For example, if my parents told me not to wear the scarf, or if my parents told me don't do this, don't do that, I have a right to refuse that. I respect my parents, but if they told me to do something wrong, what I think is wrong, I have a right to refuse that.
No
So just
problem.
because I'm female does not make me entitled to being weaker
Let us
or
take
to
this,
being silent.
let
Because
us
as
take
a
this
female,
example.
I will respond the way that I believe is right to respond.
Yes, your freedom is to wear the scarf. You are not a victim of a Nazi-kind propaganda.
To take away the identity from them. And this is happening throughout the West. You live in a very beautiful country, South Africa, and you may have a very good situation going for you. But as they say, what goes around comes around. When winds blow, they blow everywhere. You cannot stop it. So before this problem comes to you, you need to know about it. We are facing it right now in Britain. In fact, this week, a definition agreed by a number of academics, a definition of Islamophobia, was put forward to the British government, and the government rejected it because they feared that the government will not be able to do a job against extremists or terrorists.
The definition of Islamophobia Adnan refers to is this: all-party parliamentary group on British Muslims. Islamophobia defined. The inquiry into a working definition of Islamophobia. Oh, we have a new definition, guys. How exciting! The all-party parliamentary group on British Muslims was launched in 2017. The cross-party group of parliamentarians is co-chaired by Anna Soubry, MP, and Wes Streeling, MP. Regressive leftist alert. Regressive leftist alert. I don't know, maybe they are right. The group was established to highlight the aspirations and challenges facing British Muslims, to celebrate the contributions of Muslim communities to Britain, and to investigate prejudice, discrimination and hatred against Muslims in the UK. Okay, now let's see the new definition. Islamophobia is rooted in racism, and it's a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. That's the definition. Okay, whoever votes for these people again in UK, you are absolutely brain dead. These people just tried to surrender your country to the Islamists. Islam is a political ideology like communism, fascism. These people said that from now on, criticizing a specific political ideology will be perceived by the law, by the constitution, as racism. Okay, that's dismantling democracy. In ancient Greece, the birthplace of democracy, in ancient Athens, they had something called exostrakismos. What was that? Ostracize, okay? The word ostracize comes from the ancient Greek word exostrakismos. What was that? Citizens had the right to write the name of any politician they thought without justification. Just write his name in a piece of pottery, and whoever had most votes, he was forced in exile from the country. What is the name of this pottery? Themistocles. You know who is that? The guy who saved Athens by convincing the Greek parliament to use all their money and make specific kinds of ships, fast ships, and because of that they defeated the Persians in the naval battle of Salamina. In other words, Themistocles was a hero. He saved Athens. The Athenians, because they thought that his glory will compromise democracy, he didn't do anything, okay? They thought, because he's so glorious, that will compromise democracy. They wrote his name in this pottery, and he was exiled from Athens, and he died in exile. Now, you surrender your democracy to your enemies, to Islamists. We exile the guy who saved the Western civilization for no reason, just to not compromise democracy, and you surrender your democracy not to hurt the feelings of an evil ideology. You surrender the keys of your democracy to your enemies. In ancient Greece, free speech was secret. In comedies, ancient Greek philosophers like Aristophanes used to make fun of the rulers of his day with things like donkey dicks. Okay, that's how secret was free speech in ancient Greece. And now you make the criticizing of the most evil ideology in this world as we speak illegal. Really, eh? Congratulations, let me make a stand ovation. In the same report, they say, according to the Ipsos Mori report, the vast majority of Muslims, 94%, feel able to practice their religion freely in Britain. And then they add this. Then they also add this part. Let us be clear. The aim of establishing a working definition of Islamophobia has neither been motivated by nor is intended to curtail free speech or criticism of Islam as a religion. Evidence read and heard by the group clearly delineated the desirability of criticism, debate and free discussion against Islam the religion. Really, with this definition, you did that. I mean,
this is the pretext that was used to reject that particular definition. The Muslim community is with the government when it comes to working against extremism and terrorism. We are not a terrorist people. We are not responsible for what some crazy people are doing around the world. This is a business between those governments and these crazy people. We, the Muslims, generally are victims.
Okay, let's investigate that. What is the reason for terrorism? Islamic fundamental ideas. The Islamic ideology is 100% to blame for Islamic terrorism. Not 95 and 5% something else, 100%. Okay. You say that you work with the government to fight against terrorism. How you are doing that? By pretending it's just some crazy people and Islam has nothing to do with terrorism. That is how you work with the government. Here is a guy that truly tries to counter Islamic terrorism.
Return for the security provided to them as the zimmis, the protected people of an Islamic State. Hello, fascists. Do you know that in Nazi Germany, the brown shirts actually beat people? We're nice fascists. We don't beat you up. And then they would actually forcibly silence them. And so you are the children and heirs of the fascists.
That is what you are doing to people who are truly trying to fight terrorism. Adnan Rashid. That is what you are doing.
If you let me finish, Robert, you have been known to be an Islamophobe. Some people think that you are. I'm not. I mean, this may be funny, but some people.
I'm a terrible guy. Okay.
No, I'm not saying that, Robert. Robert, come on.
Muhammad
come
existed.
On.
You still haven't given any evidence of that.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, Robert, that you have praised EDL on your blog as the EDL is standing up to violent thugs from both the left and the increasingly assertive Islamic communities in Britain, and they deserve the support of all free people. Now you are openly asking the world to support an organization like EDL. How obnoxious can one
You want
get?
to debate
Okay,
EDL?
okay.
Let's have a third program. But
No,
you
okay.
still haven't given the...
So, how are you working with the government to counter Islamic extremism when you demonize everybody who actually does? That is how you are demonizing, smearing, and effectively fight against anyone who is actually doing something against Islamic terrorism, ideologically. And when you had a real extremist near you, what did you do? You were whistling. You supported him.
Why has Abu Qasim done what he's just done? Why has Abu Qasim done what he's just done?
Do you have any shame?
Why is Abu?
Do you have
do you
any
answer
morality?
a question?
Do you have any morality?
Do you ever answer a question?
Do you have any shame?
Do you
Steve?
ever have a
Do you
a
condemn Tommy
possibility?
Robinson?
Why did Abu
Do you
Qasim
condemn
just
Tommy
do what he
Robinson?
did? Why did Abu Qasim?
Tommy
Don't
Robinson
change
is
the
the man
subject, you
who
walking
caused
ego.
terrorist attacks against
Why are you
Muslims.
changing?
Look what this guy just said. Tommy Robinson is supporting terrorist attacks against Muslims. Okay, no. In fact, Tommy Robinson is doing what you supposedly are doing. He's fighting radical Islamists. What's your beef with Tommy Robinson? Unless you are a radical Islamist.
High cost. It is you. Why did you lie? Secondly, when we told you about Abu Qasim Muhammad Haddad, this guy, was at court for 1 year at the Old Bailey for supporting Sheikh Faisal again. So Sheikh Faisal, he was putting his literature online. Now there are two links with you and Sheikh Faisal. One time you denied in 2003, and we know it's you. Yeah, you can't deny no more.
Okay.
Secondly, when it comes to this particular time, Abu Qasim, we told you 3 months ago that this individual, Abu Qasim Muhammad Haddad, was an extremist that has been filmed with Anjem Chowdhury for 2 years. We have video footage of him in Vice News. And Abu Qasim, you asked him on camera, you did a nice little piece where you rehearsed it and you made him deny the fact that he's your cameraman. Instead of what you should have done was that, no, I do it my way. Well, instead of what you've done, which should have been to say, Abu Qasim, are you an extremist? Are you linked to these people? And if you are, we're going to disassociate yourselves. Like Shamsi and other people did on Paul. And now they're being ostracized because they condemned this guy.
Here's the word, ostracize. We mentioned earlier. So, look what this guy did. In his fight with the government against radical extremists, he had a radical extremist, his cameraman, and when people exposed him, instead of disassociating himself with the cameraman, he ostracized the people who exposed him.
Sometimes we're talking about the same thing. Like we got all stuck on the miracle. He has to go back and report.
You right, Abu? You, Mr. Qasim. You, Mr. Qasim, isn't it? How you doing, Abu? What were you doing on Aldwych yesterday? What were you doing on Aldwych yesterday? 4 years ago, you were out with Anjem Chowdhury praying. Do you have anything to say, Abu? Do you have nothing to say, Abu, about Anjem Chowdhury?
If you cannot respond, let me respond. This guy is an open supporter of Tommy Robinson.
What were you doing with Anjem Chowdhury? Abu, what were you doing with Anjem Chowdhury?
An Islamophobe, and he's in prison right now as we speak for breaking the law.
And what about Anjem Chowdhury?
I see your fight against terrorism is relentless. It's relentless. Poor the terrorists sit their pants when they see you. Okay? The terrorists, when they see you, sit their pants. Or maybe they take you for a coffee. Or maybe they take you for a coffee. Adnan Rashid's relentless fight against terrorism continued with his son.
Tonight on Exposure. At a fundraising event at one registered charity with an income of over £600,000 a year, fighting abroad is seen as an option.
And the more action you give, the more charity you give, the more dua you make, the more you go there, whether you make jihad, defending the Prophet's sisters.
And we asked the Charity Commission if they're doing enough to challenge extremism.
You know why we can't tell them. But what we can tell them is to learn the Quran, to start praying. Once they have the iman in their heart and they feel that the ummah's problem is their problem, they will start to act by themselves. The first level is for worship. The second level is on top of that worship with more action. And the more action you give, the more charity you give, the more dua you make, the more you go there. Whether you make jihad, defending the Prophet's sisters.
What if you have an option? I have an option to go and help.
And you're already someone who's praying?
Yeah.
And you can go?
Yeah.
Go. If I go over there, I'll probably be less helpful there as I can be here. But there could be someone here who's a doctor, he's got money, he's got strength, he's got, power. He can go over there, he'll be more help there than he would be here. So it depends, you have to ask yourself, you have to make istikhara. What can I do for this ummah? Everyone must ask that question.
If a person comes to the realization that he's probably more helpful in Syria than he is here raising money for them.
I see your fight against terrorism is relentless. You are either Rambo or Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Last Action Hero. Okay? Please don't work with the government so much. Take it easy with working with the government.
Adnan Rashid. See man like him in the park. What would you class Adnan Rashid as? Adnan Rashid's a moderate Muslim. He don't think like me, yeah? You think that, innit, yeah? Go back. Listen, go back 10 years. Go back 10 years. You will see Adnan Rashid repping the same man as I rep.
Yep,
yeah?
I agree
in the
with that.
same lectures that I was in.
Yep.
All of us came from the same branches. It's just certain people just became cowards.
So what do you, Vam? What branches are those? What would you say the labels are?
Brothers and sisters in Islam, I don't know if sisters can hear me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala khairil anbiya wal mursaleen. Amma ba'd. Brothers and sisters, I'll start with a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Shaykh is in a problem today. His trial is going on and no brothers are turning up to the case. And we come to listen to his lectures. When we go to the Jummah, where he goes for Jummah, there are 500 people there. But when we go to the court, there are only 20 people or maximum 10, 15 people.
Okay. Enough with the non-radicals. Enough with the freedom fighters. Now we will go to the bigots, to the radicals, to the extremists, the people who are banned from UK.
They have not considered the fact that, for example, there have been 30,000 jihad attacks around the world since 9/11. How many people have been killed by Islamophobia since 9/11? 0. The fact is that there is a massive problem with Islamic jihad, and the idea of Islamophobia is a trumped-up propaganda term that is designed to intimidate people into fearing to oppose jihad terror. And he said that the whole idea of the Islamophobia term was a thought-crushing device designed to intimidate people. And that's exactly how it's used. The way it works is by a conflation of two things that are not in the least connected. You have, in the first place, vigilante attacks on innocent Muslims, which are never justified under any circumstances. If that's Islamophobia, everybody ought to be against it. Then you have also called Islamophobia the discussion of and examination of the motivating ideology behind the jihad terrorist attacks that we see all around the world today, as I was doing when I started tonight. Now, putting those two things together is designed to discredit examination of the motivating ideology of jihad terrorism. By the people who are opposing my talk are not in the slightest bit of danger. But they claim to be in order to discredit the talk itself. But consider what they're doing when they do that. In all my work, I write about jihad terrorism. Jihad terrorism is not held by all Muslims. Not all Muslims are terrorists. Not all Muslims are ever going to be terrorists. I've never said anything otherwise. I write about how the terrorists use the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad to justify violence. If that makes you scared, whose side are you on? The terrorists ought to be scared because their motives and goals are being exposed, and that's the first step to countering them. But anybody who is a Muslim and is opposed to terrorism, as all the Muslim groups tell us that they ought to have no problem with that.
Adnan Rashid, Robert Spencer, when he talks in USA, he brings bodyguards. Why is that? I thought he was intimidating people, but he has the bodyguards. And you go to far-right demonstrations, like Mohammed Hijab, and attack people. But you are the oppressed. The guy with the bodyguards is the oppressor. And you that go to far-right demonstration and attack people are the oppressed that we need to worry about.
So how do we deal with this problem of Islamophobia? How big is it? It is actually global. It has spread throughout the planet, and this is not the first time. Muslims have suffered from Islamophobia in a different form in the past. Don't make a mistake, it's a historic disease that comes up, that raises its head from time to time, again and again. For example, what happened in the past? The Mongol invasions. We survived them. Alhamdulillah. Nothing like that happened in human history, let alone Muslim history. The Mongol invasions, when the Mongols came in, they were particularly Islamophobic. They hated Islam and Muslims. Therefore, the desecration of Islam from China to all the way up to Syria took place. Close to 10 million Muslims lost their lives. And that was purely because of Muslim lack of response, Muslim lack of strategic thinking, Muslim lack of understanding of the situation. Imam Ibn Kathir states that there came a time in Baghdad when the Mongols came in Baghdad in 1258, when the last caliph, the Abbasid caliph, was killed in cold blood by the Mongols. A woman would come with a sword, a Mongol woman would come with a sword, she would line up Muslims. They would
like this may be. I mean, do you seriously think that this happens to Muslim? You are being attacked. Is that what's happening? And the examples you gave is Austria, the land of the elves, banned the scarf in the elementary school, and the Mongols prosecuted you 1,000 years ago.
Would be all lined up and she would tell them to wait until she returns. She would return with a sword and she would start chopping from one side of the line and she would go all the way to the other end.
Ah, you mean like Muhammad did to the Jewish tribes? Like that, or maybe a little bit better? So now you are making us a history lesson when we know what you did in history with the Islamic conquest.
Without any Muslim flinching, this is how terrified the Muslims were of this menace. Why was this happening? There are many causes of it. My time doesn't permit to go into Mongol invasions and why they continued.
I really enjoy how he keeps saying Mongol invasion. Imagine where he went to find some prosecution to the Mongol invasion 1,000 years ago. Adnan Rashid. Anything more recent? A more recent example, maybe, than the Mongol invasion? Maybe Tommy Robinson is to blame for the Mongol invasion.
Why Muslims suffered so daily. To put it in short terms, Muslims did not have a proper response. Muslims did not understand the situation. Same thing happened during the Crusades. Muslims were the victims. Innocent people died in the millions.
The Crusades were reactionary wars against the Islamic conquest. After you conquered half of the Christendom. Anyway, let's go forward to Islamophobia.
In the hundreds of thousands. And one of the major reasons was lack of unity. Lack of unity among Muslims. Muslims are too divided. Muslims are too sectarian. Muslims are politically divided. They were not one bloc. Once they became one bloc, the Mongol invasions were checked.
Okay, look how he describes the Mongol invasion, with what sentiment, and now look how he describes the Islamic invasion of Spain.
The purpose of the advent of the Prophet of Islam was nothing but mercy. And this was the message that was to be taken around the world. And to a large extent, Muslims did succeed in delivering this mercy and justice to the best of their abilities, respectively, in different places around the world. Al-Andalus was one of those places. But why did the Muslims end up in Al-Andalus, in Spain, in the first place? What were they doing there? Thousands of miles away from Arabia, where the Prophet of Islam was born. What were the Muslims doing outside in the first place? This was primarily to deliver the justice of Islam to those who didn't have it.
Wow. I see. Why this change of sentiment? I thought all conquest is bad. You had the Nobel good conquest, eh? Maybe that's the conquest you want to bring to Europe. That is the conquest you want to bring now to Europe. The Nobel good conquest. Okay, enough with this idiot. I think we expose him completely. Completely. Nothing left of him. Okay, let me tell you what is my secret, and I do successful videos with many likes and and many subscribers, relatively, that I'm Greek guy. Not because my sexy Greek accent, although is that in parts, but mostly because I use the ancient Greek technique of the tragedy. What I do is, first I bring forward an totally obnoxious guy saying insane stuff. People get irritated, okay? They want to pull out their hair, okay? They get irritated, and then I bring the catharsis. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay, for example, let's say I put this guy.
Far-right terrorism. Where could it possibly come from? Why would people possibly have so many negative ideas of Muslims? Why would someone go on a killing spree against innocent Muslims thinking they are invading, conquering terrorists?
Let me guess, because of Islam.
Well, it's about time we tell the truth.
Don't tell the truth yet. One moment, please.
Far-right terrorism. Where could it possibly come from?
We don't know.
The mainstream media and politicians are lying to you. Far-right ideas and far-right terrorists are not just inspired through social media. This is a problem that comes from the top down. So we are told that the solution to a horrific terrorist attack is to censor the internet. Is it just me, or has everybody just completely lost their minds? You tell me, what do you think is the root cause of this? The constant theme of Middle Eastern Muslim terrorism on every news outlet, the featuring of Muslim terrorists in every other Hollywood movie and every other TV show, politicians and public figures frequently referring to Muslim and Middle Eastern terrorism, or some far-right radical types on social media.
Dan, are you okay?
Yeah, Dad, we're just rehearsing our band.
Oh, I thought a group of Vietnamese people were having their intestines pulled out through their mouths.
Okay, this is what I'm doing. First, I put in the screen a liberal or a Muslim apologist. People want to pull their hair from their intestines, and then I bring the catharsis.